Hey everybody, Kirk and Salome Johnson here inside the Roast and Caramel Launch VIP experience. And today is launch day. Woo! Thanks for joining us. I'd like to tell you a little about how this is going to go. So we are going to be using everything that's at our disposal. We're going to be looking at hearts, we're going to be looking at likes, we're going to be looking at comments. So make sure when you get here, pop something in so we know that you're there, because those are the things that we'll be using to draw our prizes. So what we're going to start with is Salome is the host.
Yes.
And I'm going to pass it over to her.
So, welcome. This is a really exciting and wonderful evening for us. And so, Roasting Karma, the new book, it's a lot of the book is about health challenges, but it's also like super inspirational at the same time. So, I think a lot of people are interested, and there are some questions, and we'll get to those as well. We're going to be mixing the questions up. Just the first question will be like, what is the main inspiration you had for writing this book?
Well, the inspiration happened when I found myself in the hospital waiting for both a heart and a kidney transplant. And at that time, I had already started some meditation and prayer. And so I sat there wondering, I recognized that people had transplants, but some people didn't make it. And so I wanted to get some type of insurance as to make sure that I would make it. And so I started meditating and thinking about it. What is a reason that God would keep me alive over anyone else? And it was through meditation that it came to me that if I could be an example for people to follow, or just the example of my life and what I've gone through, when people are in the pit of despair or having severe challenges, then that would be worthy to keep me alive. And so that's the agreement I made with God. That's the pact I made with God. And that is the reason why I wrote the book in the end.
And do you think when you look back at your experiences and talking to other transplant survivors that making that pact was effective? Like, do you attribute some of your longevity and health to that pact?
I would say yes, because there was a time when I was in the hospital and I was working with some of the doctors, and they wanted me to do a bit of mentoring with other people. And when I went around and spoke to some people, it's unfortunate, but I could sense those that were going to make it and those that weren't. And it had something to do with, whether they saw themselves in a future doing other things. They had a plan for their lives. And those that only wanted to get past this one event, they struggled.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, interesting.
mhm.
And when you wrote the book, there's so many things that a person can want to teach somebody else, but what are like the three most important things for other people to learn in reading about roasting karma, reading your book? What are you hoping that people leave the book after having read it with?
Okay, well, I'll start with the first one, and the first one is similar to what I had said before about, despair. I mean, we have to rise ourselves up from that mentality that, someone is trying to put us down or keep us down, or the world or the universe or God or someone is keeping us down. We have to move outside of that victim mentality, and we have to rise above that no matter what. We have to do our best to always believe that we're going to come out on the other side.
Okay, so the 3 points were.
Oh yes, so there's 3 points, but I think what we'll do is let's do our first draw.
Oh, okay, that's exciting.
All right. So we've got our daughter Phoebe is going to be doing the first draw, and the first draw is going to be for two Roasting Karma mugs, two Roasting Karma coffee mugs.
Oh, they're really nice. I can't wait to get mine.
And so while we're waiting for those names to come in, I'll continue with reason number 2, and we will. Oh,
We
here
got
we
it.
go. All right. And the 2 mugs go out to the first one, goes to Garth Finch.
Woo!
All right.
And the second one
goes to
Logan Marie.
All
Woo!
right. Super. And these names, we're going to get Phoebe to put them in the comments, so you'll be able to keep track of them later. So the question, if you could just refresh my mind again.
And maybe you could also just refresh everybody in terms of the first 2 points. So they were the three main things that you wanted people to get out of your book, like what you wanted them to learn, what you want them to take home.
That's right. So the second one is to learn how to overcome karma.
Okay.
Okay. So we realized that in the past, whenever we've done something, it's the law of action and reaction. So whenever we've done something, we've got something coming back towards us. And I thought, okay, I saw that the karma was coming towards me. I had the kidney thing, and then next thing you know, I had the heart thing, and I need 2 transplants. And I thought, okay, if this karma is going to keep coming, bring it on. Let's have it all. And, at first I thought that I could, it's something that I could handle, but I wasn't really sure of how much karma I still had to deal with, which was a lot. But I also did, in my studies with meditation, also came to learn that through meditation is the means of roasting karma. You can roast your karma, and what that does is it doesn't mean that you're not going to get that karma, you're still going to get it, but what you do is you reduce the amount or the effect that karma is going to have on you. And I'll give you an example. The example of that is that, let's say, for example, you started a fire somewhere and somebody died from that fire or was seriously injured. So you have that karma coming back to you. But through meditation and roasting karma and getting more into your spiritual self, you can reduce the amount that you have coming to. And so perhaps what you might have is just a burn on the hand or a burn on the arm, and that would be the karma that you would get. So it would be greatly reduced.
Oh, and there's 3 points. So
3 points, right.
So the 3 points were overcoming despair. So the 3 main things you wanted people to get out of it were not falling into that pit of despair or knowing how to get out of it.
Right. And the second one, or the last one, third one, is to advocate for yourself, because I've spent a great deal of time in hospitals. When I had my first transplant, I lived there for 6 months. And so, and every time I seemed to go into the hospital, it was for, 2 weeks or longer. And so there were many things that happened to me while I was there. I've had people try to, nurses, people in the hospital, doctors, try to give me the wrong medication, and I had to stop that. I've had people try to do things, I had on occasion when I was on dialysis, and I had what's called a dry weight, which is the lowest that you're supposed to go. And there was a doctor that seemed to think that I could go lower, but I had been on dialysis for such a long time, I knew what my dry weight was. And she says, well, let's take a little bit more off. And what ended up happening after that is that after I had that dialysis treatment and took all that extra weight off, I ended up having a seizure in the hospital. And what's interesting is after I saw that doctor later, and she said, oh, I guess you were right. And then that was it, and she walked away. So you really have to advocate for yourself, or have somebody nearby that can advocate for you.
Which sort of falls into the same category. Like, I see how they're connected with point number 2, which was sort of the karma piece. Because, if you don't advocate for yourself, then you're the one that lives with the consequences, right? So you're the one who lives with the consequences of not advocating for yourself.
That's
or
right.
advocating for yourself, because and that's something that I've really learned since I've known you, is that if you have to make your own choices, because otherwise you don't take that responsibility for the outcome, because you're the one that's going to live with that with that consequence.
That's right. You have to take action, right? We always have to take action. We can't just sit back and let things happen to us.
No, right.
So where are we now?
I was going to ask a question from Suzanne.
Okay, yes.
So thanks for the questions online. And Suzanne asked, do you still ask yourself why you lived through all these challenges, lived all these challenges. Like, so I guess you could read that in two ways. Do you still ask yourself why it all happened to you?
Um, Not anymore. I've accepted my karma and taken responsibility for it. And I know that that's a hard one for a lot of people because when they see something come at them, if I could backtrack here for a moment, when we have karma, sometimes it comes from a past life. So we could have actually lived a life of perfection and been very kind to everybody and helpful, welcoming, and then all of a sudden something happens in our lives, and those are the tough ones to deal with. But even when those things happen to us, we still have to live life with equanimity. Basically, we have to take the good with the bad. And once we learn how to do that, and we stop blaming others for things that are going on in our lives, it certainly makes things a lot easier.
Oh, that's okay. Good.
And that's something that I've learned to do over time. I still get caught up in it. You know, Eckhart Tolle talks about a fear body, which is something that jumps out at you. So if somebody, punches you, you just want to punch them back right away. But if somebody were to come with a verbal attack or some type of attack, the trick to that is to sit with yourself for a moment and ask yourself, do I deserve that? If you deserve some of it, okay, well, you take your licks. But if you don't deserve it and it's coming at you, you just let it go. And when you let it go, that energy has to go somewhere. And usually what happens is it returns to the person who sent it. So, sometimes it's better to just let karma deal with things.
Right. So not always reacting, responding instead of reacting to life. And but it is the point you made about how you can be doing all these nice things, trying so hard to be a good person, really working on yourself, and still like negative things happen to us. And it is sometimes we can feel like a victim, like kind of like why me and all these sort of things. And so that victim mentality can be really hard to overcome. So how would you suggest that, we have something happen to us and we end up feeling like we're subject to injustice for some reason, somebody doesn't like us for no reason, or it's, we get fired or something bad happens to us and we feel victimized. How do you deal with that feeling?
Well, once again, that's equanimity. We take the good and the bad in equal measure. And, no matter what happens, I always say, there's a line. And if we go high up over that line, like we go and party our faces off, then we know the next day we're going to go below the line. And so the idea is to just go a little bit above and a little bit below, a little bit above, a little bit below. So we tend to deal with things in a more balanced fashion.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I've used that before, when I go out and wind it up, and then the next day you crash. And after a while, you kind of get tired of it.
So the middle way.
That's right. And that's not to say that we become desensitized or we can't have fun. We can still have fun, but we still inside have to remain calm and peaceful and centered.
And when something sort of negative happens to us, instead of taking the role of the victim, we sort of just accept it and does the observer come into that process?
Yes, definitely the observer comes into that process. That is where you would sit. You're basically sitting back here watching yourself. And so, it almost reminds me of the analogy of the buttons, right?
Oh, right, yes.
The analogy of the buttons whereby, you have buttons all over you, okay? And these buttons are exposed and everyone can see them. And the button basically says, push me. So people are coming up and pushing your buttons over and over and over again. And so when we're the observer and we're back here, you start to see that finger coming, and it's a metaphor, but at the same time, we have to start to see when misery is coming our way. And when we start to see that misery is coming our way,
yeah.
What it's about turning the button inside. So now if the button is inside, nobody can reach up and press it. So when the button is turned inside, what happens as the observer, we see what's coming and we begin to heal it before it actually happens. In other words, if a certain thing kept happening to me all the time, which put me into what I call the pit, into the pit, which is hard to climb out of. And if it keeps happening to me and I'm in the pit, then I start to see when I'm on the edge and about to fall into the pit. And that's what we have to start seeing as the observer. As the observer, we have to start seeing when that poke is heading towards us.
Well, it's hard
Whatever
to see
that
sometimes.
might, it certainly is,
Yeah,
but
really
it takes
hard.
practice, and after a while, it is possible to do.
But it's still, initially, you still have to deal with those emotions. It's not like you all of a sudden learn to turn the button in. First, I would imagine that you have to learn to feel the button being pushed.
It is the emotions that are the finger coming towards you.
Okay.
It's the emotion. So as the finger is coming towards you to press your button, you start to feel like you're backing into the corner.
Okay.
You start to feel sad or guilty or depressed or whatever it is, because it's a process that happens over and over again.
But you go to the observer and you stay balanced and don't react.
That's right.
Okay.
So do you want to do another draw?
Yeah, let's do another draw.
All right. So Phoebe, we're going to do draw number 2, and the next draw is for 2 Roasting Karma t-shirts. Oh, wow, that's good. And we have our winners, and winner number 1 is Lori Smallwood.
Woo!
And
winner number 2 is Andrew Stephen.
All right,
Woo!
Andrew. Excellent, excellent.
Those are really great t-shirts too. Really,
Right.
really nice.
And if you've just shown up, just to let you know, the way that we're doing these draws, it's all based on likes and hearts and comments. So if you just showed up, just pop your name, say I'm here or anything like that. It doesn't have to be anything big, but those are the things that we're looking at when we're doing our draws.
Okay, so maybe we're going to do another question. Well, for sure we're going to do another question. So I'm going to go now to Joe.
Okay.
So Joe asked, what were the key factors involved in your success, amazing accomplishments, and level of resilience in the face of so many complex challenges, such as surviving personal challenges and so many medical issues that most people don't survive? Being in my books the example of how people can overcome their challenges, and lastly, but not leastly, managing to write a book and create this amazing forum for others to benefit from your teachings and experience.
Okay, well, we could break that down, but just as a whole, I would just like to say where I am in my life, I don't know any other way. There's only 2 choices, and those are to lay down and give up or to keep going. And, you know, the universe, God has given me enough illness in this life that if I just laid down, it wouldn't take too long before I was whisked away. And so these overall are the choices that I have, and I only know one thing right now, and that is to keep going.
And I just want to add that, you know, knowing Kirk and living with him, I see how he really lives what he speaks. So, you know, some people will get a paper cut and they'll be the end of the world. Meanwhile, he'll be lying in a hospital bed getting poked and prodded and having stitches almost ripped out of him, or, you know, the errors that can sometimes go wrong, and still with a smile and kindness. And it's an amazing ability and capacity you have for living what you speak. You don't just talk the talk, you walk the talk. And it's been an incredible learning and growth for me as a human being and for my kids, Dave. So it's all real what we're talking about today.
Thank you.
No, it's just you. So the next question is from.
Were there any more?
Well, that was the whole thing. Is there? So you got were the key factors involved in your success, surviving your challenges, and managing to write the book. Well, writing the book would be an interesting story for people to hear.
Well, Yes. Last Christmas, I had hurt my bursa, and it's a bit of a long story, but I'll shorten it. I had headed back to the gym, and that's usually where I get grounded. And I was starting to work out, but I had trouble in my hip and in my leg. And so I was back at the gym, and the hip and the leg, and it wasn't really getting better. And I was doing some yoga and stretching at the time, and I saw one of those rollers at the gym that you lie on. You can roll out your leg or you can roll out your hamstring, whatever's tight. And I thought, okay, this is good. So I rolled it one day, and the next day it felt a lot better. And I thought, wow, this is really good. And so I said, okay, I'm going to do this again in a couple of days. But the next day I thought, wow, that worked so well, I'll roll it again. So I rolled it again, and unfortunately I damaged it. I damaged my hip bursa, and I damaged my sciatic, and it was extremely painful, and it left me laid up in bed, and I was in bed for close to 2 months. And during that time, COVID was kicking in, and so I was thinking to myself, well, I could either just lie here and do nothing, or I could use my time wisely.
Yeah.
And while I learned through Reiki, learned how to read the body, and the hip means your role, and the leg means your career. And I thought, and the right side means your willpower, and the left side means your environment. So it's my right side, meaning it's my will, my choices. It's my hip, it's my role, and my leg and my career. So my role, what am I not stepping into? What role am I not stepping into? And then all of a sudden, it just hit me over the head that I hadn't lived up to be the example that I had promised back in 2000. And so I got busy right away. I made, and every moment that I did a little bit more towards writing the book, I started feeling a little bit better, So I lied in bed and basically wrote the balance of the book. I had written bits and pieces before, but I added more to it and basically finished the book off
No, it was
while lying in
amazing.
bed. I used Dragon, Naturally Speaking, and dictated most of it.
Yeah.
And
So whereas a lot of people would just like do a lot of Netflix watching, you wrote an entire book. Yeah,
that's right.
that was good. Really good. Okay, so mind if we ask another question?
Sure.
You're up for it? Okay. So the beautiful Joy said, if you had to do it over again, what would you change?
Okay, if I had to do it over again, or if I had to do my life over again,
If you had to do your life, I guess it could be many things, but let's try if you had to do your life over again.
yeah, if I had to do my life over again, I would have started meditating much earlier in my life. I've got a lot of my family does meditation. My sons meditate. Phoebe is just starting to get into meditation. And so they're doing it in their 20s. And it's like they have horseshoes. Whatever that they get into, if they're looking for a job, they get one. If they're looking for some help over here, they get it. It's just like, meditation magnetizes the spine. So we become magnetic in our environment, and we begin to attract things to us much more easily. I didn't have that when I was young. I lived life the hard way. And so if I were to do it again, I would begin doing that sooner. I had a feeling that I should be doing something spiritual, but I was too cool. I was too cool and ran around and went as far away as I could from anything spiritual. And even as an adult, it took me some time before I realized that it was going to be something that was good for me.
Would you say that all of your challenging life experiences and health things were to draw you onto the spiritual path? Do you think that it came to you not only because of karma, but to attract you to the path?
I believe so.
So,
I believe, I've talked about the push or pull theory, and, if you're not drawn to it or if you don't come to it naturally, you get the old push in the back. And
okay.
then that's basically what I got. That was the only thing that was going to shift me from where I was.
Okay.
So do you want to do another draw?
Yes.
All right. So we're going to do, Phoebe, we're going to do the next draw. And the next draw will be for 2 signed paperback copies.
Thank you. You read that.
Okay. All right, and the first copy goes to Judy Campagna. All right, Judy. And the second copy
goes to Nolan White.
All right, Noli.
Woo!
Excellent.
Yeah, that's great.
Congratulations.
So those are the soft cover, right?
Paperback.
Yeah, paperback.
2 paperback copies.
That's wonderful. So say somebody wanted to buy a signed copy of the book, but they didn't win one today. Where would they get that book?
Okay, well, today's the launch day, so that's the first day that things are available. And so just to let you know, it's going to take some time before books get everywhere, before books get into Chapters Indigo, before books get into our local bookstore. That's going to take a little bit of time. And so I've got my order put in for my books. It'll probably still be about 7 to 10 days. But where you'll go is to roastingkarma.com. And if I can get Phoebe to put that into the comments, if you go to roasting.karma.com and right along the top, it'll say sign copies. So you could go there and you could order one today. It's just that it won't ship for about 10 days. And
the signed part of it? So you won't. If they order it online, they won't have a signed copy. What about if they want?
No.
Oh.
Those ones, when you purchase them from roastingkarma.com,
okay.
I'll sign those books and I'll be the one shipping them.
So that's
out
different
to
than
everybody.
the Amazon.
It's shipped different from Amazon because Amazon has no way to get them signed.
And what about the T-shirts and the mugs? Say somebody wanted a T-shirt or a mug. Where would they go to buy that?
Okay, so the T-shirts and the mugs are on healingdigest.com. That's another site that I had, which was my first blog. And I'm going to be redoing that over the next little while. But when you go to healingdigest.com, up at the top, you will see shop. And when you go to the shop, there'll be both Healing Digest T-shirts. There will be the Example T-shirts, and there will also be Roasting Karma T-shirts and mugs as well. So that's where you will find those things.
Okay. Yeah,
we'll pop those into the comments as well. I'm not sure if I gave Phoebe the link, but if she can go to healingdigest.com and pop that in, that's where you'll find T-shirts. And what I'm also going to do is at some point next week, I'll probably put a code into the VIP experience where people will get 40% off, which is basically my cost, just so that everybody who's in the VIP experience can get a shirt if they want to get one.
Nice. Okay, great. Thanks. So we have 2 more questions. I'm going to do this one first because we'll talk about what you're going to write next after. If you were to give advice, this is from Misha, advice to 20-year-old Kirk, what would you say to him?
I would say, get your act together. No, this one is very similar to the one that I just spoke about on the meditation. So I would do the meditation, but if I move away from meditation, what I would say is just be yourself. Don't be afraid of what everybody is saying to you. Obviously as a Black Canadian, I went through some racism and things like that. I was afraid to get on the bus at times. I'd be getting on the bus with my friends and I'd be the only one who'd be asked for ID. Meanwhile, the bus driver sees me every day. Things like that. I would just say, just be yourself and stay strong. Because life is tough and things are going to come at you, but the more that we stay resilient and believe in ourselves, the more that we will be able to achieve things in this world. Right. It's when we get a little down on ourselves, it's when we or always looking to get out of something and never stepping up to the plate because we're afraid of what someone else might say. Um, it's important to let that go at an early age.
Okay. So that sort of leads us in to the spiritual mentoring, because a lot of these things that you're talking about are, one could say, oh, easier said than done, right? Like it's easier said than done not to care what people think or to step into yourself, or easier said. It's a lot of people, when you say get to know yourself, that's a really vague thing. How do I do that? How do I get to know myself? Or I have these problems that are patterns, these repetitive problems that keep coming up in my life. So I'm wondering, spiritual mentoring, it has come out of your book, Roasting Karma. It's one of the things that you're going to be doing. And I wonder if you could just sort of let people know what it means to have a spiritual mentor.
Okay, well, what spiritual mentoring is, it's a little bit like when you want to get a life coach. But to me, a life coach doesn't quite go deep enough. If we have an issue, why are we not successful? Why are we not getting that raise? Why aren't we getting the job that we want? And it reminds me a lot of the buttons that we just talked about a little while ago. A spiritual mentor will help you to find the root issues that are hiding beneath the surface, that are stopping us from stepping forward into our lives. A lot of that comes out with Reiki. When I've had people on the Reiki table, they journey a little bit, and I follow them where they journey and guide them through difficult spaces. Quite often they'll say, oh, when I'm on the table, I say, well, where are you now? And they'll say, well, I'm in the fog, or I'm in the woods and I'm lost, or I have a mountain in front of me. And I help them to get around the mountain. I help them to get through the fog. I help them to get through the forest in order to find what's on the other side, to find the root of the problem that's hiding beneath the surface. And I also help them to release emotions. And quite often, if we've had a traumatic event in our life, that gets buried into the body. There are many people who have written books on this, like Louise Hay, or I have a really thick book by someone called Narayan Singh, and they basically identify all illness, and they show what emotions are usually associated with those illnesses, and then what you can do to get rid of them. Affirmations, different things like that. So we work very closely with the individual. A lot of the stuff that we've been doing in the VIP experience is very similar. But I don't know if you've read any of the comments, but sometimes people would ask a question and it's not the venue to go deep enough. And through spiritual mentoring, we go deep and we remove the roots that stop us from being able to move forward in life. Okay. Whether that be relationship, career, you name it.
But spiritual mentoring it's not like a religious thing. It's not like you have to have a religion. It's a spirituality and religion are two different things, are they not?
That's right. I don't subscribe to any particular religion. The work that we do, you can be from any religion. It's not to say that you can't be. You certainly can be. But quite often, or sometimes, there are rules in religion that also hold people down and stop them from moving forward. So that doesn't mean that you leave your religion. All it means is once you can identify the thing that's holding you back, then you can become more free.
Okay, thanks.
Do you want to do our next?
Yeah, why don't we do the hardcover? Yeah.
All right, so our next draw, Phoebe, we're doing our next draw, and that is for 2 signed hardcover copies of Roasting Karma.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. And winner number 1 is Val Bradshaw. Way to go, Val.
And winner number 2 is Deirdre Maloney.
All right, Deirdre. Excellent.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. So,
congratulations.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Those are nice books. So we didn't hit Nathan's question yet, and I think that's a good one. So And then after that, I have one important question. So Nathan was asking, are there more books to come, and what are you going to be focusing on?
Okay, more books to come. So when we go through, or when you read Roasting Karma, you're going to see that I went through a lot of ups and downs in my life. And what's hidden in those ups and downs are a lot of different spiritual events. There's pivotal moments. There are issues revolving around the ego. There are issues revolving around family. There's issues revolving around karma. And so we've already begun writing a book that's called Roast Your Own Karma. And in Roast Your Own Karma, we're going to go through all of the issues that happen in the book, and it will be in a workbook format, so you can work through your own issues. So where I come across an issue, we'll discuss the meaning of that issue, what happened, and we will ask particular questions, or there'll be exercises to help you move through similar similar conditions. So once you get into Roast Your Own Karma, and I believe as we started going through it, there were so many things that happened that we might have to break it down into parts. We're not quite sure how many parts that's going to be, but Roast Your Own Karma, watch for that. That will be coming out probably the new year.
So that's a workbook. Those are workbooks, but have you got any ideas about other books that you'd like to write?
Yes, I'm working on another book, and I believe that I'm going to entitle that Why You Are Not Free. And what we're going to do is cover the reasons why, or people believe that they have freedom. And they think that just because nobody's telling them what to do, or they can eat what they want, that they're really free. But when we introduce, or when we take a look at the effects of karma, when we take a look at some of those other issues that I talked about, pivotal moments, the ego, all of that type of stuff, then you start to understand that really we're almost like robots. I mean, in one of the things that I posted a while ago, 75% of what we do is all based on karmic payback, or karmic actions that happened in the past. Really, we're only in charge of about 25% of what we do. And so that book will teach us how to watch out for those pitfalls in order to really and truly find freedom within this life.
Right. Oh, that sounds good. And when do you anticipate that could be done by?
Well, we want to do the workbooks first, but we'll be doing a mixture of the two over the next little while, because I also, for the next little while, will be focusing on the audio book.
Right.
Which I'll be recording in my own voice, and so that will take a little while to do, because they're fairly picky on how that needs to be done.
And Suzanne was also asking if you think the book will be out in French.
Yes. So typically, what happens when you're with a publisher, somebody will approach you, and they will say, "I'd like to buy the rights to translate in Chinese. I like the rights to translate in Spanish," and so that's usually what would happen. But I was approached by somebody recently, and they had offered to translate it into French, and then I thought, well, we are in Canada after all. It's not really like I need to get rights to publish in another community in another country. That's still here in Canada. So that's something that I'm looking into. There will definitely be a French version, whether it's with another publisher who buys the rights, or whether it is myself get it translated and publish it just as we've done with the English versions.
Okay, that's great. Thanks. That'd be great if it was in other languages, make it more accessible.
Yes.
So then one of the other questions that I have is, are you going to keep the group going? Are you going to, I know that now sort of the launch party is over after today, but what do you think about having like a Roasting Karma tribe, or keeping the group going as a?
That's a good question. So that's something that I'm going to post something in the group either this week or next week. It was very intense for the month producing content every day for, aside from Sundays, every day of the week. So I'm going to be taking a little bit of time off. I still will be posting just less frequently for the next little while, just to touch base with people, make sure that they are, to give feedback when they read the book. And also, might as well take a moment now and just make a request. So all along, I've put together the VIP experience, and that was really for me to give to you. And the only thing that I'm asking for in return is that when you get the book, read it as quickly as you can, and please leave your comments on Amazon.
Yeah.
Go and leave a review. 5 stars would be great, but be honest with yourself, and I'm good with that. And just leave a review. You don't necessarily have to read the book quickly, but if you've read a quarter of the book and you have a good vibe of what's going on, you can jump on to Amazon and leave a review, and that would be fantastic.
What if some people don't have Amazon? Is there other places they can leave a review?
There might be some other places. I'm not 100% sure. Goodreads or,
Okay.
other places like that. I think there's Google Books and different places. But
What about your website?
no, that one
No?
doesn't take comments.
Okay.
And the second thing that you could do is just spread the word. If you could
Right.
share it with a friend, there's a lot of healing that will come out of reading Roasting Karma. And so, given the times, that's a message that has to get out there.
Right. Okay.
Mhm.
And we did skip a question, which I'd really like to know, and it's, what did you learn from writing the book?
Okay, what did I learn from writing the book? Okay. Well, I guess I would say that, when I look back on different times in my life, and learning to be the observer, when I look back, I see my life, it's almost like it's in little bubbles. Okay, so when I was a child, that's a bubble. When I was a teenager or in high school, that's a bubble. When I was in my 20s, that's a bubble. And I can look back and, from the outside looking in, it's so easy and so clear to see what was going on with myself at that time. And so I can still look back and I can still learn from the things that I've done in the past to help to make me a better person moving forward in the
Right.
future.
That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's a good time to do the spiritual mentoring
Okay.
consultation?
Yeah, sure. All right. So we'll get Phoebe to give our 2 main prizes. And what we decided to do for our main prizes of 2 mentoring sessions was, and this was something that we decided at the very beginning of the VIP experience. And what we decided were who were going to be the most engaged, the most involved. And those people will win a spiritual mentoring session with yours truly.
1
2
hour.
mentoring sessions, 1-hour sessions. And the winner of those sessions goes to, and strangely enough, there were 2 people that were in a dead tie. So it's a good thing that there are 2 prizes. And so the winners of the 1-hour consultation are, winner number 1 is Joe Hadzi, and winner number 2 is
Suzanne Burden.
All right.
Woo!
Nice. Way to go, guys.
Yeah,
Great work. We really appreciated when folks commented on the content that we put forward, because then we could engage more. If people didn't understand what was going on, usually a question brought out some more, and we could get into that and we could discuss and we could talk about it. So we really appreciate everyone else who made comments and made the whole thing a great success.
Oh, it was fun. It was awesome. Yeah, and what I really loved about it too is that it's conversation that isn't easily available in other places. So like to me, it's so satisfying to be able to have these conversations publicly with people and start these sort of more intense, deeper meaning of life conversations, because life is such a huge, beautiful mystery, and it's nice to be able to share that with other people.
That's right. And I know even myself, when I'm in groups and there's so much going on and people have so much content, it's kind of irritating. But what I found was that I had people coming to me and say that they were sitting on the edge of their seat waiting for the next piece to come out so that they could see what was going on. And that was very touching to me, that it made it all worthwhile. So putting all of that information out there, and spirituality is a tough one to deal with. Not everybody is into that, and some people are, very invested in their religion. And so I was very grateful that everybody got the participation that we got, and I felt that it went quite well.
It did. I just want to add one thing about the spirituality piece, is that a lot of times people think of spirituality as something sort of like ethereal and out there, but what I find in the conversations that we have about spirituality with you is that it's very practical. So you take what you learn and you apply it to your life, and you see your life change. It's not about it's all self-realization. It's all learning, applying it to your own life and seeing if it works for yourself, right?
Sure.
And in that, you change and you grow and your life changes, and you actually see yourself making strides in the direction that you want to go. So I really like that about what you're teaching.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's great. So in closing, I just want to mention, and I'll get Phoebe to post it in the comments, just my website, which is kirkajohnson.com. If you want to know a little bit more about spiritual mentoring, that would be the place to go. So those are the three websites: kirkajohnson.com, roastingkarma.com, and healingdigest.com. So, if you want to visit those places, once again, Healing Digest is going to be redone over the next little while, but the content is still there and viable. So,
would you like people's comments about what they'd like to see the group moving forward, or are you going to?
Yes, absolutely. If you have any feelings about what the group is going to be, as I said, what we can do is I can leave it there and just add pieces from time to time. I can convert it into a tribe. This is a popular type of group where people support each other on different things. And we will continue to put more content and have more dialogue. So, but once again, as I mentioned, I'll be putting something out to everybody, and then we can decide from there.
Okay, thanks.
All right, is that it?
I think so.
All right, that's great. So thanks for being here, and keep on roasting karma. Take care. Good night.
Night.